Hello everybody, Glitch Reaper here, back for another vlog, and this time it's basically about to kind of describe something that's going to be upcoming and fairly nice. Uh, it's been a while since I did something like Solitary Craft Plus, uh, and I'm going to do something kind of like it again. It's going to be kind of a casual kitchen sink style super magical pack. So it's gonna be like heavy on the magic mods. It's gonna be I'm kind of gonna be able to get to it kind of casually because my new workload is a bit more tiring than I first thought it would be. So it'll just be kind of whenever I have time and effort to do so. Uh, or for that matter, well, yeah, pretty much that's gonna be it. Is just whenever I have time and effort to do so, but it will be in 1.16.4, possibly eventually in 1.16.5 if some of the mods update to it. And the thing is that, well, to be perfectly fair, most of the mods in it are already in 1.16.5, but there were a few that I very specifically wanted to play, like finally, and maybe have like one really good session with finally, like, or not really session, but one really good run with overall. Yeah, that's better. Uh, the thing is that I've been wanting to do astral sorcery for quite some time, and for some odd reason, almost every time I try, something contradicts it in some weird way that's inexplicable, and I have to not have it in that particular pack. But this time it seems like everything is running smoothly and there's no major issues. So I think I'll finally be able to do it. But that's not the only thing in there. There's going to be like a ton of magical mods, like so many I really can't even remember all of them off the top of my head. If I did, it would probably take up way too long. Like this would suddenly be at least a half-hour video. And that's not exactly the style of my vlogs. Now the thing is that it will be kind of kitchen sink style. I just kind of got a lot of mods in there with no particular thing to do except whatever I feel like progressing at the time. Although, that said, I will probably do some heavy progression in a lot of the magical mods, especially when some of them kind of recreate the feel of Thaumcraft, or they themselves at least had some kind of integration with it in the past. But since it's 1.16.4, Thaumcraft won't be there. At least for now. I say that because technically Thaumcraft is being worked on by somebody. Asinor did pass it along, but to be perfectly fair, that guy's also really busy, so it will take a while before he ports it to any version. And I'm not expecting any particular version, so I have no idea if it'll be available on the 1.16 cycle. So, you never know. So it could sneak itself in there eventually if I'm insanely lucky, but I'm not exactly counting on it. But because some things either recreate some of the feel of Thaumcraft or previously had something to do with it, even though it doesn't have anything specifically like officially Thaumcraft in it, uh, there will be some things that carry on some of this legacy. And because of that, I'm going to call it Shadows of Thaumaturgy. Yeah, that it just rang out in my head, and I'm going, yes, I must name it this. And I mean, some old favorites are going to be in there, many of which have had their dynamics changed more than once, and some are like spiritual or actual successors. Like, for example, Mana and Artifice is an actual successor to Ars Magica 2, but done by the original author, might I add, but he decided to go a different direction and to kind of veer away from Ars Magica because it was technically franchised and permitted back then in the age of Ars Magica 2, but now he's kind of moving around where he can do kind of the mod without worrying about that kind of thing later on. It does carry on some Thaumcraft feel because it has cool constructs that can help you out, kind of like golems could. So that's actually pretty cool. And there's other mods in there, some of which are kind of like witchery or uh, like spiritual successors. Like I know a Dolan's going to be in there. I'm going to have to see if Bewitchment is up to date with that. I saw that it updated big time recently, and I got to check what all versions it's on. Because otherwise, I might be able to sneak it in. I don't know. But Maybe. It might be on 1.16.4. I'm going to have to check. I know it really jumped versions like crazy, and I'm going to have to see just how far it went. But it was basically the spiritual successor to Witchery, and it did have a lot. It already has like a lot of Thaumcraft integration, so because of that, it's one of the things that used to have Thaumcraft integration when Thaumcraft was in a version that it was. So it's kind of jumped forward. Thaumcraft is still sitting there, and that's kind of where that one goes. But also some other ones like Evilcraft and Blood Magic are going to be there. And again, as I said before, things like Astral Sorcery. And also some really cool mods that I can't even go over because they're just too crazy. But I will totally do them. So that's going to be wacky. I also put in a lot of Ender expansion material because of my love of Ender themes, so I managed to sneak some of that in somehow. Yeah. And you'd be surprised what else is going to be in there, including a lot of cool mobs. Sadly, at this exact time, Like Nice Mobs isn't up to that part of the cycle, but it's just because of how Lycanite does things. And I do know the guy. So I'm just going to describe that he goes like months at a time away from like doing modding or anything like that, and he goes months at a time in a giant spree. And when he is on his spree, he is an absolute coding beast with awesome skill. Like, you are definitely probably familiar with his work. So when it comes in, it's going to come in pretty hard. And the thing is, most of Like Nice Mobs doesn't really regard terrain generation, so I don't really have to worry about that. So going in or out is going to be kind of casual with it. I mean, there's a few exceptions here there. I mean, he's been trying to crack a certain structure thing for a while, so for a while they're turned off in the first place, so I probably will not be seeing them. So that kind of is just the state of Lycanite's mobs. And also, interesting story, I've been waiting for a while when it comes to Tinker's Construct. It's been hinted that it has been on the 1.16 cycle of Forge, but that was only on the Forgecraft server. It has not actually been released to Forge publicly yet in terms of that version. So I'm doing something a bit alternative that's also a bit more magically themed. You may or may not have ever heard of Silent Gear and Silent Gems, but I'm going to be kind of going with that and seeing what I can do. It includes a lot of customization and a lot of nifty gemstones, which I am kind of a fan of crystal, so I decided, it's also the time to do that finally. And again, there's also like tons of other things here, so it's gonna be just huge, just positively huge. And if some things happen to update that are kind of what I'm considering magical enough for it, and that dolphin decided to just fly out towards the camera dramatically. Congrats for you, dolphin, for making a fantastic scene and hanging out with another dolphin. Okay. Well, you two are having fun. Anyhow, as I said, some stuff might sneak into it over time because I'm not really thinking of it as like completely set. And I just noticed that my hey, you two, if you're not gonna jump for it, I'm just gonna throw it out for you there. You have fun in the ocean with it. There you go. Just have the magical glowing soccer ball that's not shaped at all like a ball. There they go. Wow, I could probably just watch that as I'm going. But yeah, I'm thinking of this as one that might be kind of a gradual, like, a pack that might change and add stuff over time as well. So kind of, I guess what you call a living mod pack, one that is going to kind of be going around for a while. Now, a big difference is I had some issues with CurseForge, and I'm still having them as far as I know. I mean, I haven't been able to check back on that for a while, so maybe the problem has fixed itself. And that's probably the only way it's going to get fixed, because, quite frankly, I have no idea what to do, because I've tried everything that I can think of doing, outside of, like, completely uninstalling Minecraft and reinstalling the whole thing, which would require a lot of backing up before I do. That I'm not sure I have time for that kind of monstrous session of file checking. At least not at this time. But again, maybe the problem will solve itself. However, ATL is doing perfectly fine. So this won't be a Curse Forge pack. It's going to be an ATL pack for a change, kind of like again with Solitary Craft Plus. And the thing is, ATL's also kind of changed, and I'd kind of like to report on that a bit. ATL now has the ability to do something kind of like CurseForge, in that you can search for mods in its own internal search engine, and then you can like add them to your pack. So you can kind of pull them off there, and it does actually pull them mostly off CurseForge, actually. But there's some that, oddly enough, don't seem to go onto it for some reason. I, you can still install them manually, but it's just like it doesn't register them from CurseForge, or it doesn't find them somehow. It may be a permissions thing, but the fact is, you can actually find tons of mods through the ATL launcher itself now, and make yourself a pack that way. You couldn't really do that before. Whenever I originally did Solitary Craft Plus, it was something where I was kind of helping someone out, and they wanted to know kind of a bit of stress testing with a couple of versions of their pack, and I just basically kept adding on to it and seeing about what point it decided to say no. And that applied a couple times over. And also, full disclaimer, when I say twice over, I meant at 1.8 and 1.8.9. I have never shown off uh, my pack that I designed for Solitary Craft Plus Season 2, actually. I think I still have that instance loaded there, and it's just that I've never gone full bore with it. So that's something that may happen in the future if people are interested, but I think the interest has moved on to the latest versions of Minecraft and them being in mod and what they can do. So it's probably not going to happen, but you never know. There's still a chance that I could finally show what Solitary Craft Plus Season 2 would have been like. And it would have included some pretty wacky mods, to say the least, and some that were just awe-inspiring, and a ton of magic, including 5th generation Thaumcraft, actually. So, going back on the subject of Thaumcraft, it's still there. And the weird fact, 1.8.9 combat is pretty much the same as 1.7.10, so if people are hung up on that as a combat system, I have no idea why they haven't moved on to 1.8.9 and like modded everything out of it even more so, because that version is way more stable than 1.8 directly. Like 1.8 straight is just horribly bad to deal with, and I somehow managed to get over 100 mods working at a time for Solitary Craft Plus. So 1.8.9 way more stable, and for some odd reason, people just kind of left it be because it was at the end of the cycle, and then things moved on to 1.9 and beyond. So a lot of the excitement from modders just kind of moved away to the next thing. But if people really wanted to maintain that feel of 1.7.10, I'd suggest moving to 1.8.9 as much as you could. Seriously, I mean, I fit way like this. I wouldn't say way more, but I fit a humongous darn lips. I fit a humongous mod pack into 1.8.9 for mostly testing purposes, and it works fine. It really does. Again, if I ever do that part, you'd be surprised how far it goes on that. But again, that's not going to be my next big thing. My next big thing will be Shadows of Thaumaturgy in 1.16.4. So expect a lot of nether shenanigans to happen as well, because that's just the way it is. This is Forge based, and I'm actually kind of sad that Forge and Fabric can't be in the same kind of pack together, or at least not as far as I know, because I have checked into Fabric a few times, and I agree it has some really cool mods. And there's even one that's a really cool magic mod I'd really love to get into at some point. Uh, it was called Lacrimus, and it focused on crying obsidian as a power source, which is entirely unique. And yet, I can't really do it with a lot of other mods that I like, because Forge and Fabric seem to disagree as far as I know. So I'm kind of sad about that. And who knows, maybe in the future they'll figure out how to get along. But until then, admittedly, my focus will be more on Forge for practicality, and which mods I like happen to be mostly on Forge. And the thing is, a lot of modders that work with Fabric these days, as whenever I'm doing this, kind of just stick with Fabric and vice versa. So you got a lot of Forge modders that stick with Forge and not do Fabric. But there are some that do both for a particular mod. Like they'll have it basically like two different versions. And there's some that are kind of experimenting with going back and forth and seeing how well stuff translates. Like I know Lycanite is actually thinking of unleashing his mod onto Fabric. Oh my gosh, if he does that, it will be the biggest, most awesome mod on Fabric. Yeah, I know I just said there were some other Fabric mods I was interested in being unique, but let's face it, I just love Malekithite's mobs, and I really think it's one of the biggest, most awesome mods ever. So if he unleashes that on Fabric, Fabric will suddenly have a surge of popularity that's just insane. But for now, I'm going to be going with Forge for practicality, and it seems to be going fine on ATL. I don't know what ATL does different than Curse Forge that allows me to just bypass whatever Curse Forge is having an issue with. Or maybe it's just Curse Forge itself is just having a conniption fit. You never know. But just the fact is, ATL is working fine. So I can go with that and do it. So because this is a similar situation to what I was before, whenever I did Solitary Craft Plus in the first place, whenever I was, and whether or not I actually discussed it at the time, the whole issue was that I was having a long-term job, and it was taking up a good portion of my time. So I wanted something I could do casually, and that wound up becoming Solitary Craft Plus. And the thing about it is, I had a good time with that, just being able to do it whenever I had the ability to do so, and just kind of going along with it. So, kind of focusing on one major modded survival among maybe some other things like me doing mob battles, which, yeah, I'm pretty sure I was doing back then too. So, that's one of the things that I will definitely keep doing alongside whatever major modded survival series I'm doing. Or for that matter, vanilla survival in the case of Minecraft as we go, which I will have further runs with, and it may be kind of a casual series after we've had like major uh, changes and stuff. But you never know. I mean, that one could just keep on going around that same time, even if we've got a stable version for quite some time. Or it could be something I play mainly whenever we're doing like major updates, like say until we've got at some point after the current update, like point 1, point 2, whatever, whenever they're still refining things, but you're just going along with whatever it is. So it might be just continuous over time. It might be something that mainly I do during update season. I haven't fully decided on that, but the point is definitely going to be during update season, whether or not I do otherwise. But uh, again, because my circumstances are similar to kind of back then, I'm going to be doing Shadows of Thaumaturgy as kind of how I did Solitary Craft Plus. I'm going to do it casually just whenever I have time. I'm going to do it long term, at least for like quite some time. I mean, it could be a long time before I exhaust cool stuff to do in this pack. It is absolutely massive. It has a lot of awesome magic things that have humongous progression. Like, again, if I can pull off doing Astral Sorcery finally all the way through, it has a lot of cool stuff to do. Just lots of cool stuff to do. And that is going to take me a while to go through just for that one mod, let alone the other mods I've got in it. And yeah, Botania is back, as I've had it before several times. But since I'm going to be doing this for quite some time, there's a good chance I'm going to show off way more of what Botania can do, because usually I rarely get past certain things in Botania just because I don't really feel I need to go further. But because it is kind of a kitchen sink mod too, in a way, it gives you lots of options. You can just kind of pick and choose how you'd like to use it, and that's also something really cool I like about Botania. And be able to synergize with some of these other mods I'm going to have in, I'm probably going to push it a lot farther on a lot of things than I have before. And you're going to see a bit more than you have in the past, because there's certain things I'm wondering whether or not they stack in Botania, that some which I haven't actually shown off before but would love to. So some things could get just straight up nutty because of me stacking cool magic accessories. So that could get wild. And that's one thing I love about Botania, is it has some really good accessories. And another thing that's kind of happened is that Baubles also kind of got ported. but it was after Curios kind of took over for Bobbles being the major accessory API. So, in an interesting twist, instead of requiring Bobbles in this version, it required Curios. And I am very curious how Botania is going to deal with that. Now, the thing is, a lot of them do use the same slots as Bobbles used to. So I'm pretty sure it'll be mostly the same. But you never know. There could be a few twists that I didn't quite see coming. And there's a lot more to that. And so I'm just going to kind of expand on and just go all out in a lot of directions. As I said, it's going to have a lot of magic in it. It's going to have a lot of cool mods. Look, most of the classic utility mods, although there's still a couple I'm trying to hunt down there, so that could be interesting. And also some returning ones that you might not expect. Again, it's going to be magical and wacky. So, again, kind of expect that Solitary Craft Plus Season 1 feel to come back, because I'm just totally going all in on this, and I'm just really feeling it. So, and because ATL has proven itself to be particularly stable with a lot of things, I'm feeling it'll probably go on pretty well. Will I ever get back to the stuff that I was doing on Curse Forge? Maybe. I mean, I was really wanting to break Vethia, so breaking Vethia is something I'd like to do, but at the same time, Curse Forge just it hasn't been feeling it recently. So it could be a while before I get back to that. Now, as for Thaumic Resurgence 2, I'm not sure. I mean, the thing is, Shadows of Thaumaturgy is, again, having a lot of those classic Thaumcraft vibes, even if it doesn't have Thaumcraft itself. And the thing is that as it progresses onward, there's a decent chance that a lot of its stuff is going to wind up just kind of being updated to later versions. So it is theoretically possible that as we move into gradually more stable versions of modding, and that's something that they're getting closer and closer to, that it will be faster and faster for Forge to update. And, well, part of that's because Surge is in on the team of Minecraft, and he basically was one of the founders of how Forge is made and how other modding APIs is made. So he has really helped out with maintaining that. And as they move to that stable code base, there's a decent chance that as I keep going along with the series, that I probably won't run out of things to do before I literally just get to upgrade every mod that I'd like to, except maybe one or two, and even then, maybe like everything. So it could just kind of road roller on. That would be awesome. Wow, I've been going on about this for a while, although it's particularly deserving because it's been a while since I had this kind of series going on and this kind of feel to it. So I'm kind of feeling awesome about that. And for now, I'm going to have to be logging off and, of course, giving the classic parrot party. Although, the question is, do I happen to have a disc on me right now? Yes, I do. And in honor of me pulling something off in my vanilla survival recently, of actually finding this disc in survival, I do believe I'll be doing it to Pigstep. So, oh, come on. There we go. That feels good. Doesn't quite like Pigstep, but anyhow, yeah. So I'll be logging off. Hope to hear from you all later. And remember, everybody, join the Parrot Party. Yeah, doing it to the Pigstep vibe. Yeah. Okay. See you around, everybody. And party.